So, for those who noticed that I wasn't here last weekend, well, I wasn't here because I was at a wedding for my cousin in Ohio. And the unique part about this wedding was that I wasn't in official capacity. I actually got to sit down and watch it all unfold, which is nice because then I don't have to worry about, okay, what do I do now? And thinking about the words of the homily and making sure I get the formula right. It was very relaxing. Got to sit with all my siblings who were able to make it. It was also very unique because it was a Baptist wedding. My cousin's a Baptist and her husband's Baptist as well. So I'd never been to a Baptist wedding before, so I wanted to really get a feel of what that was like. And I don't know if this is unique to every Protestant wedding, but at this particular one, my cousin and her now husband took 3 strands of string, it looked like, and they twisted it together during the ceremony to form a cord of 3 strands. And it was based off the passage from Ecclesiastes, which says, "A cord of 3 strands is never broken." A cord of 3 strands is never broken. And I want you all to keep that image in mind, this cord of not 1, not 2, but 3 strands in the back of your head as we dive into our scriptures for today. Our second reading is one that can be a little bit controversial, and I could spend all day talking to you about it, but we don't have all day. So if you want to learn more about it, come find me. But I just want to focus on one particular passage that really spoke to me, and I believe it should speak to you as well. This line where Paul says, "Christ loves the church and sanctifies her through the cleansing water of baptism and by his word." He sanctifies, he makes the church holy by his word. We hear in the gospel that the word that Jesus gives is spirit and life. So the word that he gives the church, the word that he loves the church with, brings spirit and life. Spirit, which should make us think, or at least I'll tell you now, in Hebrew means ruah, which means breath. We all need breath to live. If you're not breathing, you're dying. So this word that God gives us is life and life. Doesn't make that much sense, but we have to go a little bit deeper in that the second part, that life, is not just surviving, which I tell my now high school students that I'm the chaplain of at PJP, Pope John Paul II. You can't just be surviving, but thriving. I asked them, are you surviving or are you thriving? Because as I'll hear many of you say, I'm hanging on, Father, I'm surviving. That's good. Not where God wants you to be. Because the glory of God is man fully alive. He desires our fulfillment. And so the word that God gives us isn't just going to keep us alive, keep our hearts beating, but it's going to realize our full potential. It's going to bring us that joy and that peace and that love that will truly satisfy, that we're longing for. And so the good news that we hear from today in our scriptures is the Lord wants us to be not only alive and thriving, and he's giving us the word. He's giving us himself to make that happen. Now he's also going back to that cord image of those 3 strands. He's giving us this life, not just 2 cords, Jesus and us, but Jesus, us, and the church. Because he gives us those words of life, that teaching that will guide us on the right path, not just in morality, but even the sacraments that give us life and help us to thrive. He gives us those through the church. The church is seen as our mother. And so this union of Jesus marrying the church and us is that cord that brings us life that can never be broken. But the devil strives each and every day. The evil one tries to not break the cord by snipping it because it's unbreakable, but he's trying to unravel it and separate each strand one by one. He's trying to cause a divorce, to try and separate God and the church. Oh, God's important, yes, but you don't need the church. See, that's a divorce that will truly separate us, and then he'll pick us off, snip, 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 and break us all. And then we no longer have the words of spirit of life, but we have death and unfulfillment. And so the Lord is trying to encourage all of us, especially in these uncertain times, which we talked about and we prayed about in our opening prayer, the uncertainties of the world. He's giving us our church as a mother to provide for our needs and to show us the right way. On our part, it's not necessarily merely just taking it on blind faith. Though as parents out in the congregation, I can imagine you desire your children to trust you, that you desire your children to know that you have your best intentions at heart. And children out in the congregation, young and old, I bet you want to believe that you trust your parents, that you can listen to them, even though it's sometimes difficult. It sometimes takes a little bit of faith to trust that your parents have your good intentions at heart, that if you listen to them, you'll not only survive, but you'll be truly happy. But I encourage you all to ask the question, why? There's teachings that we encounter that make us feel like the crowd in the gospel. This saying is hard. Who can accept it? I know when I was growing in my faith and still do have to question, why does the church teach us? Why is this word giving spirit and life? So ask the question why. Don't just put it off and walk away as the crowd did, but go deeper. That's the invitation God's inviting us today, to get to know why the Lord teaches this, why he's teaching it through the church, why the church is so important as a mother. Ask the question why. There's so many resources out there that explain why, that go deeper. All you have to do is make the time for it. But prayer is also important in strengthening that three chords. Faith is important, but also charity. And you get it both in the Eucharist. Because here at the table, every house has a table. I would hope so, at least all Italian households. Sometimes they have 3 or 4 tables. At the table, we're fed. Our parents provide for our nourishment. And so God, through the church as our mother, provides that sustenance that keeps us glued together, the 3 strands, one cord that is unbreakable. So come before God's altar, receive that nourishment, and ask for the grace to go deeper, to be strengthened in your bond with Christ and the church, so that you may not just merely survive, but thrive, find your fulfillment in God and his church forever.